Hi. Now, if you've been playing around with PhatPhish at all, you'll realise that there's an awful lot of musical scales out there. I think at the last count there's over 50 in the PhatPhish scale database. Now, some of those scales you do absolutely need to know. Things like the major, the minor, the pentatonics, and so on. The real bread and butter scales. Other ones in there, you might get through your musical career and never need to know them and not really suffer any for not knowing them. Other ones, you'll learn them as time goes by, and they might influence your style or your way of playing. And what I wanted to look at in this video is some ideas for how to get to grips with a new scale, learning a scale and becoming familiar with it. So as a starting point, let's say you've been watching another video that I put on here recently introducing the harmonic minor scale. If you've not played the harmonic minor scale before, what's a good way to get familiar with it? Well, first off, I always encourage you to understand the theory, know the formula of the scale, understand if it's a major type of scale or a minor type of scale, and how the scale's built, in relation to a major or a minor. So in the case of the harmonic minor, we've got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6 and 7. So find the scale shape, find some fingerings, which is the sort of thing that PhatPhish is ideal for. Find out how you can play the notes of the scale on the neck. And then as a starting point, just play the basic scale through. Just find a pattern, so using the root note on the first finger if you can, on the bottom E string, and play the scale through. And once you're familiar with the basic scale, start looking at patterns that you can build from it, on each degree of the scale. So like, little patterns of 3, things like. Okay, so once you've done that, you're familiar with the basic fingering of the scale, and you've got you played a few patterns around. Start being creative. I've always said if you're playing notes from a scale, you can never go wrong. It might not sound particularly brilliant or particularly inspiring, but if you're taking notes from the scale, you'll always have something that sounds reasonably okay. So to start off, playing through start with a scale if you want to stay within a scale box for starters, and just look at little patterns that you can play it, and try and come up with melodies. So that probably doesn't sound particularly brilliant or inspiring, but really it's just about an exercise in moving around the scale and discovering how it sounds and getting your ear used to the sound of the scale. Because at the end of the day, everything we do in music, it's a creative thing, whether you're playing for your own enjoyment or you're playing to entertain other people or whatever. It's about creating music. So as soon as you can, try and get away from just playing scales and exercises, and and be creative. Now, if you're playing rock guitar, one thing you'll be familiar with the idea of is just like playing riffs. So as well as playing through the scale and just coming up like melodies like there was there, experiment with just basic short patterns that you could build a riff with. If it helps, turn on the dirty channel of the amp and see what you can come up with. Okay, so there, short phrases, but starting to put a bit more emphasis onto the phrasing and the musicality of it. At the end of the day, the scales aren't music; they're just building blocks that you can build music from, and it's about phrasing. What makes it sound good. So trying to put a bit more emphasis on the way that the notes are played and structured. So it starts to sound more like a musical phrase that you might want to listen to, rather than just running through picking notes off the scale. So that was something on the lower strings, like in a riff sort of pattern. And you could come up with similar like short phrases on the higher strings as well. Again, thinking as well as what notes you're picking, to stay within the scale, but how you're picking them and how they're phrased. So there's some ideas for you, when you come across a new scale and you want to get familiar with it. The idea of just getting familiar with the basic scale itself and then building little patterns off of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4 sort of exercises. And don't forget, when you're doing that sort of thing, practice along with the metronome. Start off a speed that you're comfortable with, and then as you get more proficient, increase the speed on the metronome and start playing faster. As you get more proficient, don't start trying to play really fast from the word go. And then start getting creative, experiment with scales, pick out little melodies, start composing little riffs and licks and phrases, stuff that will become part of your playing vocabulary and lead you down the road as well as becoming familiar with the scale, but being able to create with it and getting towards writing your own songs and so on, which is much more fulfilling than always just playing cover versions of other people's stuff. Okay, so there's a few ideas there. Hopefully you find them useful and it helps you to get familiar with the new scales. Like I say, there's loads in PhatPhish, and I'm sure over the course of your musical career you'll be learning quite a few. So I hope you find those little tips useful. Enjoy your practice, have fun, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye for now.